So, while I gave y'all a break yesterday with the reading, I'm going to give y'all a break today with the language arts, the wit and wisdom. Today, I am simply going to read a passage to you all, and all you have to do is listen. That's when you say, "Thank you, Miss Franklin. You're the best." Now that we have learned all about the Native Americans, we started with Lewis and Clark, how they came across them and they started building trading relationships with them, things of that nature. We started seeing how the Native Americans had their own way of living, their own plan for life before any of the Americans discovered them and their land. Also, our most recent passage, we looked at how the Americans started taking over Native American land. So, today we are going to start looking at one specific tribe called the Nez Perce. And part of the Nez Perce tribe was a group called the Nimiipuu. So, I'm just going to read a little bit about them. There is a video in Classroom that y'all need to watch. So by this point, you should have already watched that. I'm just going to read this passage to get a feel, or to give you a feel of what life was like for the Nez Perce tribe. So, Nimiipuu Homeland, Nez Perce Country. Long before Meriwether Lewis and William Clark ventured west, before the English established a colony at Jamestown, before Christopher Columbus stumbled upon the New World, the Nez Perce, who called themselves the Nimiipuu, lived in the prairies and river valleys of north-central Idaho, Montana, northeastern Oregon, and southeastern Washington, an area of approximately 17 million acres. Wow. So, this group, the Nez Perce, they had this huge stretch of land that was all theirs before any of the English came over and started discovering their land. And this map was actually in the video you watch. In 1805, when Lewis and Clark met the Nez Perce, they encountered a well-integrated people. I messed that up. In 1805, when Lewis and Clark met the Nez Perce, they encountered a people well integrated into their environment. So that relates back to our passage about their brilliant plan for living. They already had their own traditions, their own customs, their own way of doing things. Nimiipuu traditions and knowledge of the surroundings were well honed over thousands of years, so they had a long, rich history. The Nimiipuu homeland's abundant resources sustained their economy, lifestyle, and culture. So they had a lot of good resources. And resources, in this case, natural resources, these are things that they planted, things that they already had in their land. This is what helped them survive or sustain as long as they did. Legend times. Nimiipuu oral history records their presence in Nez Perce country since time immemorial. Archaeological evidence indicates that people have occupied the plateau culture area of the Northwest for at least the last 11,000 years. That is how far back their history goes. Way before Lewis and Clark, way before Columbus, way before George Washington even. The Native Americans were here. This was their land. According to legend, the world before humans was inhabited by animals that possessed human traits. The primary animal was the coyote, who at times had supernatural powers. The Nimiipuu creation story reveals that when a monster began to consume the animals, Coyote tricked the monster into swallowing him. While in the monster's stomach, he killed the monster and set the animals free. Coyote carved the monster into pieces and scattered the parts throughout the land, where they became the various tribes. Coyote left the heart of the monster near Kamaya, Idaho, and sprinkled the blood around the surrounding countryside, and created the Nimiipuu, the Nez Perce people. These stories provided instruction in Nimiipuu culture and often conveyed moral teachings and practical information. The Nimiipuu have been part of this land for countless generations. Their traditional homeland occupied nearly 13 million acres in what today is Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. The earliest peoples lived in small groups and family units. They were mostly reliant on big game hunting as primary means of subsistence or ways of survival, means of survival. Starting around 6,000 years ago, many aspects of the historic Nez Perce way of life began to appear in the region. This included the use of a much broader base of locally abundant plant, fish, and game resources. This shift to a more encompassing use of resources was well adapted to the Nez Perce homeland. It enabled the ancestral Nez Perce to develop a much more sedentary lifestyle, as evidenced through the emergence of large winter village sites and the increasing use of semi-subterranean pit houses. By about 3,500 years ago, the bow and arrow came into common use in Nez Perce country. This technology eventually replaced the atlatl around 2,000 years ago. Over the 1,000 years, Nez Perce culture became increasingly reliant on seasonally abundant fish and root resources. As the population grew, large villages located along the Clearwater, Snake, and Salmon rivers and their tributaries became the norm. A common thread throughout the Nimiipuu's existence has been a keen knowledge of the resources present in their homeland. This included a thorough understanding of when, where, and how to obtain and use these items. Local stone, minerals, and various plant species were crafted to make clothing, baskets, tools, hunting and fishing implements, shelter, and other personal items. So the Nez Perce's history goes back thousands of years, and they also use their good, rich resources to sustain their way of living. That was the main idea. That was the big takeaway for that passage. And just like that, you're done with language arts for the day. And my lights just cut off. So, all you had to do was watch that video and listen to me read the passage that I just read. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.